You're listening to the Organizing the Entrepreneur podcast. My name is Janelle Azar, and I'm a professional home organizer. I've spent the last 7 years running my own business and being an entrepreneur. I know firsthand the challenges of owning a business while managing a home and a personal life. And along my journey, I've organized for hundreds of people, many of whom are, you guessed it, entrepreneurs. I knew that I could offer more to this incredible group of women outside of my one-on-one organizing sessions, and that's where the idea for this podcast was born. So join me as I chat with amazing female entrepreneurs who are also building incredible businesses while juggling family life, friendships, and some self-care. We'll take a peek behind the curtain of what life really looks like as business owners, including the good, the bad, the organized, and the totally disorganized. I'm excited you're here, so let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. You know, I'm always excited to bring you awesome stories. But today's episode, it's extra special because I'm chatting with my cousin, Jen Benningfield. And let me tell you, you're in for a treat, seriously. Jen's journey is so inspiring. She and her husband, Scott, are the former owners of Louisville's pedal bar bike business. They were one of the first 5 cities in the country to jump on board and own a business like this, like way before you could find them in every city in town. And at its peak, they operated in 2 cities, had more than 20 employees, multiple managers, and ran countless unforgettable tours. We're going to talk about how she went from being a stay-at-home mom with 2 little girls to this incredible business owner, something she's always dreamed of. And honestly, it's something that's in our blood. We've got a long line of entrepreneurs in our family. And the stories she shares are absolutely incredible. You'll hear about how she and her husband championed the effort to update Kentucky's alcohol laws. And then we'll get into the emotional roller coaster of selling the business after 12 years. She's also going to share how she organized her space, her time, and her business, and what she's got planned for the future. And because we're family, we couldn't resist sharing some ridiculously embarrassing stories from our childhood. Trust me, you won't want to miss this one. Let's dive in with Jen Benningfield. So let's talk a little bit about growing up in a family of entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So talk about that.
So my dad, your uncle, he owned with our grandpa a tile business. And my dad didn't really talk a lot about it. My dad was just a hard worker. He just was a very blue collar. He just got his hands dirty. Tile work is it's a hard thing. I mean, really is. I actually tiled when my dad came to build our house, he helped me tile. It is a lot of hard work. So I totally respected everything that he did. And then him having to do all the back end paperwork, I never really saw a lot of that. And so what I really saw is just my dad coming home every day, just head to toe in dirt and sweat and,
The physical side of it.
It was very difficult. It took
very
a lot
demanding.
Very demanding, took a lot out of him. And then in a family business, you have a lot of structure with, you have, his father, our grandfather, he was out of it when I was little. So I didn't really see a lot of our grandpa, kind of being the leader. Really my dad kind of ran it himself. And then our uncle, he kind of was more the office manager. And there's, with any kind of business, but especially family run, there's a lot of feelings involved, and it's difficult to navigate because it can affect family relationships. So yeah, and so
Absolutely.
when we started, now Scott and I, we owned the business, we're married, but part of what I learned from my dad and my uncle, and actually my stepdad owned a business with his son. So I had that side too. And there was a lot of always tension there. So one of my things was I really didn't want to hire family members in the business unless absolutely needed. Like if we needed someone last minute, we could call on them. But I really just wanted to keep family, business besides my husband.
That's a pretty important lesson to learn when you're thinking about a business or running a business. That's definitely difficult when it comes to family, keeping things separate. I've never really worked with my husband in my business, maybe once or twice, but he's not really an active part of the business. But we did work together at the same company for 20 years, but we were in different branches. So we didn't really cross paths all the time. So it was a lot easier to navigate that kind of closeness and that proximity. And plus, it's not your own business. You're working for someone else, completely different.
Yeah.
Did you know that our great grandmother also owned a business?
No.
Yeah. So she owned a dress shop in downtown Findlay, Ohio, where we're
You know what?
from.
Yes, I did know that.
It
And then,
sounds familiar.
yes, and didn't it was the depression that it kind of crashed everything, correct?
I don't know. You know who's the best person to ask? My mother.
Becky.
She'll know all the history on it. So there might be some amendments to this podcast. Okay, so I love the story about how this business idea came about. So can you share that with us a little bit?
Okay. We started this business about 2011, 2012 timeframe. We started it, but I actually saw an entrepreneur article. It was probably 2009 timeframe. And at the time, my daughters were very little. And as any mother, young mother knows, you're going to the doctor's office, you're going to the pediatrician all the time. I mean, I lived there because everybody's sick all the time. We're all sick. And so I was just sitting at the doctor's office and I saw Entrepreneur magazine. And my husband and I have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. We're always, I mean, we still have ideas, just crazy ideas all the time. And we just always have had that spirit. But anyway, Entrepreneur magazine was sitting out and I saw a picture of this bike. And now most cities have them, but back then nobody had seen those before. And so it kind of took me aback. So I'm sitting there, I'm like flipping through it. I was really fascinated with it. And I took the article and I wrote the name down of the gentleman who was the founder. And it was actually him and another teacher. They were out of Minnesota. They were teachers. They were on a summer break. So they went over to Amsterdam and they were just kind of hanging out in Amsterdam and they see these bikes. And that's kind of what spurred them on. And so this article is kind of about that and how they connected with the manufacturer or the builder and they brought it over to the United States. So this article was so fascinating to me. And so I came home after the doctor's appointment and I had his name written down and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to Google it. So I Googled his name and a phone number popped up. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to call him. Why not? I'm like that. I'm just one of those people. I'm like, sure, everybody, if he's going to want to talk to me. So luckily he did. He was the nicest guy. I still talk to him every once in a while. But he founded the United States distributor of Pedal Pup, that's the national uh, brand of this company. And he kind of explained everything to me, and he kind of gave me, hey, this is what you need to do on the local level. Every state's different, so I can't give you specifics. I can't hold your hand. You've got to do this yourself.
Mm.
So I was super excited about it. I was like, man, Louisville needs this. I mean, drinking on a bike, and who doesn't want to do that, right? It was just such a cool concept and something totally just off the wall that let's do it. When I talked to my husband, his name is Scott, and he was like, are you crazy? I talked to him and kind of hounded him like wives sometimes do. And it took about a year because he just was kind of hesitant. And because obviously you couldn't drink on the bike legally. Like we did some research and you couldn't legally drink on the bike. And we had some family members even say to us, hey, I don't think this is going to work. And you know what I do when someone says, don't do it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You do it.
You do. When you describe the bike, my mother thought it was a 15 person and everybody's in a row, like on a little bicycle. My mom is like, what are you even thinking about doing? This is the crazy. You went to college. What are you doing? And so I talked to Scott. It took about a year for me to convince him. And I think what kind of did it for us, we were at dinner one night and I'm talking to him about it again. And I said, you know what? When you see this bike rolling down the road, because it will be, and we're not attached to it, you're going to feel regret. You're going to be sad that we didn't do it. And he was like, you know what? You're right. You are right. And then that's what kind of started the process. And and the startup cost was sort of low, about the cost of a car. And a lawyer gave us good advice, and he just said, would this affect your life if you lost this money long term? Obviously, you don't want to lose thousands of dollars, of course, but is it going to affect the rest of your life? And we were like, well, it would hurt, but no, we would be able to still function, pay our bills and everything like that. That was his advice to us. Like, as long as you're not jumping into something completely out of the blue and it's going to like financially destroy you. So that was something that we had to kind of rationalize.
So you at the time are a stay-at-home mom, and and Scott is in the military. So he is sometimes home, sometimes away during this process of you thinking about whether or not you want to invest in this business.
So we had just moved back to Louisville. My husband's from Louisville. We were married, lived in Louisville for a while. We went away for a couple of years. I was in sales prior to that. We went away for a couple of years for him to go to nav school. He's in the Air Force, and we had come back, and he was just getting his like job set up. He was not on active duty orders. He would have to travel a lot to kind of piece together orders and things like that. So he was gone a lot. I was home with two little girls. He was home half the time, gone half the time. So it was a challenge. But we just started out with one bike, and it was weekends, and he usually was home on the weekend. And we just figured it out. When you look at your life and you look back at how you started, probably you too, it's like, how did you do that with little kids or with this going on? You just figure it out and you just do it and you don't even question it.
I think that's a really good point that you bring up, that you just kind of figure it out, because I look back at the days when I was starting my business, working 60 hours a week and then doing my business on the side. So I was sometimes working 80 hours a week, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I would never do that now,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. And I'm too old now. I'm like, I don't have to do, there's a couple more business ideas, but you know how much work, and you have to be really, honestly, if you see something, you have to be passionate, just like you were so passionate about it. It's not fun working 60 hours a week, but you had something inside you that said, this is going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. I may not have one customer right at this moment, but I know one day I'm going to have customers. And there's just something inside of you. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just you either have it or you don't, you know.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of that entrepreneur spirit that you're talking about. You really have to have the passion and the drive to go after something. Now, you talked about a little bit about figuring it out. Now, how did you manage your time with two little kids and getting the business started? Was there a lot of juggling back and forth and kind of figuring out how that looked like?
Absolutely. Our entire life, we were a family where I would bring my kids with me. And that's the one of the nice things. I wouldn't bring them on drinking tours, obviously. Obviously, but owning your own business, there is some flexibility where you make your own rules. And I was able to bring my kids with me. A lot of what I did was on the phone. So one thing I would say that I did, just kind of a side note, is I got my own. If you're thinking about starting your own business, you're small. I just contracted with a phone company. It's called Grasshopper, and you pay like $20 a month. You start out and it rings to your phone, but it's a different phone number. And I worked from home, so I would know when a business phone call was coming in. So obviously, if I had little kids, it kind of gave me a little bit of warning, like, oh, okay, this is a business call, versus everybody calling your personal line. That's just something kind of small we started with, and it makes you more professional too.
Absolutely. I've been back and forth on that quite a bit with my own business. And I think back in 2011, 2012, when you were starting this business, it was probably a little bit different because more people communicated, I think, by phone versus text, maybe, or even email. And sometimes I think it depends too on the business model that you have. For me, I ended up transitioning out of that because all I was getting was spam on my business phone. And for me, I was like, this is not worth it. But I do agree. I love having that separate number.
Yes.
To make it more professional.
Yes. And one of our things when we first started out, because Scott and I just kind of winged it. You fake it till you make it. And that's all we would say. We would just say, you fake it till you make it. You fake it till you make it. Because there are all these big guys, big tour companies in Louisville. And we were these little teeny, we didn't know what we were doing. But we're like, we're going to get fancy shirts. We're going to get business cards. We're going to get a phone. And all that stuff doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you fake it till you make it. And they don't know any different. You walk in, you look exactly the same as them. They may have $1 million business. You may have $100, And so Scott and I, that's just what we did.
You guys crushed the imposter syndrome and just moved right past it. You were like, we are here, we're doing this thing, and we're amazing.
Yes, we were good poker players, I guess.
Maybe that's where your daughter Emily gets it from.
Yes, don't play poker with Scott or Emily because you'll lose because they have very good, they have good poker faces. But seriously, like you have to do that. You have to pretend like you're running along just with the top dogs, even when you're just starting out and you have not a clue.
Absolutely. And the people who are coming to you are not going to know if you've been in business for a year, 6 months, 10 years. I mean, generally speaking, if you're doing the right things where you have your shit together pretty much, where you've got your business running smoothly, people aren't going to know. Let's talk a little bit about, okay, so you're organizing this business, the side of the business. What's life like on the home side as far as being organized at home? How does that look for you? Did you feel like one thing kind of fell to the wayside while you were working on your business, or were you able to kind of keep up both sides of it?
It's a struggle in the beginning. And I will say this, I will say in the beginning, if you're starting a business, you have to know your personality because it was my husband and myself. We were co-owners. And one thing is you need to know your personality type. My husband is a completely different personality type than me. And I think when you start out, you need to start a foundation with, okay, you just have to be honest with yourself. Like, I'm a micromanager, and a lot of people think that's a bad word. I don't feel like that's a bad word. I feel like, we're hard workers. We don't let anything slip, but you have to understand what your partner is. So when Scott and I first started the business, I understood that he was not going to be doing the taxes. He's the fun. Scott's the fun one. Okay. Well, I mean, we're both fun. We're both
Like, don't
fun.
discredit your fun side.
He's he's awesome. My husband's awesome, and he's everybody loves him. He is the personality.
Scott's a good time.
He's a good time, but he is also the one that when stuff hit the fan, he thrives on stress, and I don't like it. I'm more of the shy one. And so in the beginning, you just have to know your personality types and set that foundation. And that gives you kind of a structure of like, okay, then I can then now see what roles we're going to take. So from the bare basics, like I'm going to be, answering the phones. I'm going to be doing the scheduling. I'm going to be doing this, that. And Scott, he was more mechanical anyways, but he was there and plus he was busy and doing other things. So, but if there was an emergency, he would run downtown. He was amazing at that. He was great at customer service. Everybody loved him. Like, he was the absolute best. So I guess just in the beginning, you have to set your goals where you know who you are and kind of delegate that to everybody who's working with you. You know what I mean?
I definitely know what you mean. I think that's a really important point to make as well, especially in a partnership. Everybody's going to have their strengths, and whatever you're not good at, that's what I love to delegate out as a solopreneur. I don't like to do social media, so I delegate that out. There's some other things within my business that I just prefer not to do myself. So that's great that you have a partner and you have different interests and abilities, and you guys can divvy up those things. So I love that.
And I think it's just when you own a business, you have to be so real. You can't hide behind anything. If you're not good at something or you don't want to do something, then you're going to start hating your business. If you do things that you hate, you either need to find a yin and a yang, a person that can help you with that, or just pay someone if you can't afford it, pay someone. Fiverr. That's another. Fiverr was great.
So let's talk a little bit about micromanage.
Okay.
I love that. It's not a bad word. Not at all. I felt like I did a lot more of that in my professional career because I was forced to, almost in a way. And I still do that in some sense in my own business, obviously. Talk to me about, does that spill over into personal life too? Are you a micromanager at home?
So it did. And that's great that you bring this up because yes. And Scott would say to me, because I was 24/7, always. Well, I get a booking at 3 a.m. when I'm sleeping. So you have to have a little bit. You can't just push everything off. You have to be timely, but you do have to separate your personal life and your business life. And that's one thing Scott did say. He was like, Jen, let's set aside Sunday night at 7 o'clock. And that's when we do all our work. We're married. let's be married parents and take care of our kids. But then Sunday night, we'll talk business. So I think you need to set aside some time. Then you can focus on everything. I think that's a way to kind of organize it. But, I still had to answer stuff daily.
Yeah. Boundaries are so important.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yes.
Absolutely. I
Yes.
mean, that's key. I don't necessarily have emergency organizing text, but I do have people who text me at 3 a.m. as well, just because they're up or maybe they miss, I don't know. That's why I always have my phone go on silent at 9 o'clock. And unless you're in my specialized
Yes.
list of people, in case there's an emergency for someone in my family, I'm not going to get that message until the next morning. That's just a boundary that I've put in place for myself, so I don't feel like I have to respond to something.
Yes. And like, for example, with our manager, way to be organized in that sense, I would send them at the beginning of the weekend. We work mainly weekends, Friday, Saturdads. And I would have a phone call on a Wednesday or Thursday night. I always said like Wednesday night, and we would look at the schedule for the weekend. So we would have a phone conversation about, hey, this is what's happening. Just so there's Charlie.
There's Charlie. Hi, Charlie. I love it when an animal comes into the background.
I know. Okay. Oh, my chair's so good. He's listening. So I would have a phone call with my manager every Wednesday night, and we would go over the weekend. So we were both on the same page. We were organized. It wasn't like things were popping up. You got a manager. And so I would send him a screenshot of everything I needed done for the weekend in like a PDF form. I'm old school kind of. So it was typed out piece of paper, but I would shoot him an email or a text. And so he could see everything that needed to be done that I wanted done. And then on Sunday, my request was he would email that back to me with the check marks, like I did this or why didn't I do this? So I wasn't, you do try to not be on the phone constantly. You need to have a flow of organization. Now he would call me. Obviously things would happen through the weekend, but if you can set some kind of organization up where they're not calling you for every little thing, it helps.
I would think that there's also some sort of automation involved in the business too to help you stay organized. So obviously if people are booking tours, there's an automation that's involved with that as far as actually doing the booking and then getting a confirmation and payment and all of those things. So there's organization on that side of things too.
100%. And about, I don't know, 8 years ago, it was kind of a newer thing where the customer would get a text and it would review all of the rules, the date of the tour, the time of now everybody does it. I love that. I love getting texts when I get my dental stuff. I'm like, awesome. I just like to stay organized.
You guys are on the cusp of the innovation of the text. That's awesome.
I get excited when I get my dental cleaning text. I think good for them.
Good for them, good for you, good for everyone. Okay, so let's talk about, and I was just telling you as we were getting started, you and I have been always close growing up. Like we were thick as thieves when we were kids. We have so many fun stories that we always love to retell. We have a shared fear of ET.
My sister's fault.
And our grandmother's basement. I mean, that played a role.
It was haunted. It's haunted.
So we've always been close. We spent summers at Lake Erie. Our parents both had boats up there, so we were always getting into trouble.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're like, I'm denying everything.
Kind of. My dad was like, yeah,
do whatever.
He's drinking a beer.
Yes, your dad. He was also
attention.
Not at all.
Not really.
I've seen you come through this journey of being an entrepreneur and getting the business started. And I feel like maybe I wasn't paying as close of attention then, but when you sent me the articles in preparation for this interview, and I was reading about how you and Scott petitioned to change the alcohol laws in the state of Kentucky. Right. Like that's a big deal.
Yes, it kind of was. And again, we're the little fish and we were like, we're going for it. And we got a state congressman who was wonderful. He believed in our cause. And then he made it bipartisan. He was a Republican. He contacted a Democrat. We got together and they both believed in it and they co-sponsored a bill. Scott helped write the bill and It didn't pass the first year.
And what was the bill for specifically? What was the change in the law that you guys were trying to implement?
Okay, so we're in Kentucky is where we are. We are in the Bible Belt. There are very strict rules on drinking in the state of Kentucky, where some are more liberal, but in the state of Kentucky, it's extremely strict on drinking in public. We didn't want to sell. I mean, we would have loved to sell in a way, but we just wanted to allow people to bring their own alcohol on the bike and be able to drink on the bike on our private company bike. And it just wasn't the law, is we just wanted drinking in public. They were saying because we were on a public roadway, regardless if it's a private vehicle, that you are drinking in public. And this is how weird the Kentucky state law is or was. I don't know if they've fixed it or not, but going through the law, Scott and I kind of figured some things out on like commercial vehicles. You can have an open container. You can have an open container on a public roadway, like in limousine, for example. That's legal in the state of Kentucky, or it was. I don't know, that might have changed. But as soon as you put that up to your lips and you start drinking, that is drinking in public. So the police officer has to actually see you physically drinking. That's how, like, the laws are just kind of screwed up in a way. And we actually pointed that out in one of the sessions that we had to go through. Even the lawmakers were like, what? I didn't even know. So we went through, and the first year it did not pass, unfortunately. The second year, we're like, maybe Scott, we can't do this ourselves. So we hired a lobbyist and paid them a lot of money. And the lobbyist didn't do anything more than what Scott and I did. And actually, Scott and I had more passion. She had some connections. She had a few connections that helped. I mean, we went to a couple of things that did help, but it wasn't worth what we were paying. And Scott and I are always like, we can do it. You know what I mean? Like, we see a painter painting or what, we're like, we can do it ourselves, you know? And so the second year we had paid a lobbyist, didn't pass. And we were like, you know what? We can do this ourselves. And we ended up going up to, her name was Stephanie Stumbo. I can't remember her title, but she was basically in charge of all the state alcohol law. The third year we were at an event with her, and she said, you guys are the most persistent sons of bitches we've ever seen, is what she said to us. Yeah. And we're like, yeah, we just think we can charm you somehow. And so we're like, we're coming back again. We're not quitting. We're not going to quit. And we were at an event and we were wearing our black shirt logo. We thought we were looking slick at a big event. There was a lot of big wig people here. We were trying to get the bill passed. And this had a lot of bankers. It was like a networking event. Bill Samuels there. Bill Samuels is CEO of Maker's Mark. We thought we were sharp, we're looking good. One of the bankers said he thought we were the staff. He said, can I have some coffee? He said, we're actually going to present. Sorry, like we're not. We
don't work here.
We're here. Don't wear a red shirt at Target. Anyway.
That's life advice.
Wear a red shirt at Target. It's on. So anyway, we presented, it was maybe a 15-minute presentation. And so after the presentation and after the meeting, Bill Samuels, who is the CEO of Maker's Mark, we went up, and Scott did. He went up and talked to Bill Samuels, and he said, hey, sir, we're trying to pass a state liquor law. I just kind of want to get your advice or just let you know. And he goes, well, good luck. He goes, we haven't been able to do that in many years. He just basically was like, you're not going to pass a law in the state of Kentucky because it's so difficult. Bill Samuels said that to Scott. It was, it was kind of one of those things where it was kind of devastating, but we just were like, what do we have to lose?
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. If these Congress people believe in us, let's do it. So year 3 happens. And we finally get the bill. It's put into session, and it actually goes to session. And the congressman, the gentleman, he's like, Congress really needs you to speak to them and explain what this law is. This is year 3. And we had never been able to speak. And we're like, well, what is this like? And he goes, oh, it's just friends. We're just going to sit and chat. And so we're like, okay, but we always try to dress up and look as nice as possible.
Question. Did you wear your T-shirts?
No, we wore business suits.
Oh, okay.
We tried to blend in with the lawmakers. So this is just a casual conversation among friends, is what he told us. So we were like, no big deal. So we go to Frankfurt, which is the capital of Kentucky, at the state capitol. We go there and we just think we're going to go into a little room, like a teeny tiny room. That's not the case, Janelle. We were it actually looked like something you would see on like C-SPAN. It was there was probably 50 to 60 people and they were all in their chairs. They had microphones. There was cameras. We were on local television. We had reporters sitting at the front filming Scott. Scott had a microphone and he was sitting at a desk by himself.
Oh my God. I would die. I would totally die.
Being his wife, I was sitting there. I felt so bad for him because we had no clue this was not a casual thing that they said it was. This was like really a serious thing. And I just saw Scott, and there was a
like a pitcher.
Pitcher, yeah. Sorry, I couldn't think. Pitcher of water, and he's sitting there going like this, like pouring his water. I don't know if anybody else noticed how nervous he was, but I noticed. It went well. Obviously, you're gonna have people who object to drinking, and we get that, and we totally respect every side to that, and I can understand the pitfalls of it as well. But it passed. It brought us so much joy, and we were on the front page of the Courier Journal, and it was kind of a big deal. Honestly, it was a big deal for our state and for us. So
that's incredible. And it was in the USA Today too, right?
mm-hmm.
I think that's where I read the article, and we'll link that in the show notes for people to check out. But that is just such a journey, and what a testament to how persistent you guys are to move something forward that you're truly passionate about and you really believe in. So I'm assuming that there was a lot involved. Did you have to present any kind of facts or notes or details? Yeah. Okay, so there were a lot of parts of things that had to come into this, and you had to, I'm thinking this is a process that has to be very organized, very meticulous. Like
reporting. Yeah, we had to have an economic impact statement. And honestly, that was the most important thing for the lawmakers to justify us doing this is how is this going to affect the downtown? Like Scott and I calculated it. We averaged and we tried to go on the low side, but we brought $50,000 to $60,000 of business a year to each bar.
Wow.
And we would have bar owners saying, thank you, thank you. We had to hire more staff because of you. And so we did have an impact, and we did bring a lot of business because downtown Louisville, and I know Detroit struggles sometimes a little too, a lot of people didn't want to come down to downtown Louisville. Yeah. And our bike helped bring people downtown that would have not necessarily come downtown. And honestly, what a nice thing, and this was another thing that we explained to people is the bars that we would take them to, a lot of times we would find out that they enjoyed the bars. They're like, oh, I've never been to, first of all, I haven't been downtown in 10 years is usually what we heard. And then they're like, oh, it's not as bad as I think. And then they'd be like, oh, I really had fun at Taj. I had fun at this bar. I had fun at this bar. And then they would come back or they would tell their friends, hey, we should go to this bar. And so they would see business. And so it brought a lot of business downtown.
Repeat business. And yes. That's incredible too, the way that it impacted the community in such a significant way, not just monetarily, but also with changing the perception almost of what the downtown area was like. Do you feel like it revitalized that area?
Yes. In 2012 and 2013, we really, there was not a lot downtown Louisville. I mean, there were bars and things, but there wasn't like activity, like tours. And we brought that. It was just a new, complete concept of something to do. It was a fun way to get together with your friends. You're drinking, you're pedaling, you're seeing downtown close up. It is such a fun thing. You're listening to music, you're talking to your driver. It's a fun experience to do. And we had so many people. And we were just so blessed, and with people who said, thank you so much, just the absolute love that people had for it because it gave them such good memories, hopefully. Sometimes they got a little out of hand, but it was such a neat thing that we brought to Louisville. We were the 5th city in the country to bring this to the United States. So Louisville was one of the first. When we first started, I would come home, I couldn't even talk because people, when they would see our bike, and first of all, it didn't ever have an electric assist at the beginning. It was purely pedal powered in the beginning. So it was very slow. And we would have people come out of restaurants they're eating dinner with their family and they could see our bike. And I had so many people like, what are you? What is this? And we'd come home with our voices completely shot because we were talking to so many people.
That's awesome. So you really knew, and I love that you knew this when you first saw it, that it was going to be a really big deal, and you took advantage of that. Now, my husband and I, we've had the privilege of being on the bike.
Yes.
And I that was the first, I think the first and only time we've ever done something like that. Even though it is wildly popular now, you can find it in just about any city. It was so fun. And I'm trying to remember, I don't think it had an assist at the time. And Louisville's a little bit hilly in some
Honestly,
sections.
it's not, but when you're on a bike like that with no electric assist, I mean, the teeniest hill, it is. You also have people who don't want to pedal.
Exactly. Yeah, there were some non-pedalers.
Yeah, and you point them out quickly. Like I'm like, oh, this guy's not pedaling.
Get it
You know,
together.
yeah. You guys were so gracious to step up because I think we needed a few extra peddlers for a tour, and you guys were so gracious and just you went with it. And we had a ball and we had so much fun. But yeah, it's the electric assist was a game changer. Game changer. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't imagine doing that on my own with people who don't want to pedal. That is, yeah, that's a lot of work. Okay, friends, you know I love a good book, especially when it comes to organizing. And let me tell you, I found a new favorite. It's called Southern Chaos, Organizing the Southern Home, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Seriously, it's one of those rare books that I'd actually leave out on my coffee table. It's that pretty. But it's not just a pretty face. It's packed with practical organizing tips for every room in your home, plus a lot of fun, Southern specific advice. Think organizing for Mardi Gras, closet tips for a Southern belle, even a sweet tea recipe. The photos are stunning, and the author shares some great personal stories about life in the South. They also introduce their chaos organizing method, which is a great way to help you simplify your home. Whether you're from the South or just love a good organizing book, you have to check this out. Grab your copy of Southern Chaos at organizingsouthernchaos.com, and while you're at it, grab one for a friend. It's the perfect gift for anyone who loves organizing, appreciates Southern charm, or just needs a little inspiration to declutter. So let's talk about a couple of other things. Let's talk about your home life.
Okay.
Let's go there. What about being organized at home? How would you rate yourself, like organizationally? Do you feel like you're pretty together, pretty organized?
I try to be, yes. Owning a business, you have to be. You can't let things slip. I definitely don't think I'm where I want to be. I definitely can improve in organization. The older I've gotten, the more organized. I think when the girls were little, and I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I'm going to throw them under the bus. You're just flying by. I don't know. I mean, I just wasn't organized. I was not an organized mom. I just threw the kids in the car, threw bags, threw this, and, I just made it work. Now that I'm older, I have more time. I am definitely more organized in my life and more purposeful. And as you get older, you think, okay, what's really important in life? Family, money is not always the most important thing. It's sharing time with your family. And so you try to like prioritize your life a little bit more. So I don't know if I went off track, but
No, but I think that's interesting from what I gather, from what I hear you saying, is that it wasn't necessarily super planned out or organized when it came to life as a mom and a business owner with the kids being little. Like it just is what it is. And sometimes things get missed, and that's okay. You move on.
this is one thing. I'm always a positive. I always want to be the most positive. I'm like, micromanager is great. And crazy mom is great. But my girls, honestly, not that it was chaotic, but they are so adaptable and they just go with the flow. If everything was always planned out every minute, they stepped up and helped me in so many ways. They knew when mommy struggled a little. And I just think that may help them see the realness of owning a business. I will tell this quick little story. It's so funny. When Emily was in kindergarten, so we were trying to pass the state law. And I remember she came home with one of her little homework assignments or coloring a unicorn or something. But in the next to she had written in crayon, BYOB. And I was like mortified. I was like, oh my gosh, the teacher is going to really think, see people knock on my door. But that was when we were going through this whole law process. So the kids, they pick up on a lot of stuff. And I didn't even realize that she had knew what BYOB was.
Emily's wise beyond her years.
The teacher was like, I need to hang out with this lady.
Right. So with that being said, like, do you think Ashley or Emily, do you think either of the girls have a desire to be an entrepreneur and own their own business?
You know what's so funny is I have talked to both of them because I always have, I'm like, let's start a tanning business, like spray tan. Because Ashley, she would work at all these little jobs and she didn't like this one job. I'm like, why don't we start our own little spray tanning business? We could spray tan half of your high school. We could be the bosses. We'll run it. I know how to do it. And I'm like, it's not going to be a big deal. And I think they're still at the age where they're like, no, they don't want to.
Not yet.
Not yet. And I've asked, trust me, both girls, I have all these crazy ideas. I'm like, okay, let's start this. And they're like, Mom, no, I don't want to do it. So you are.
Someday. Right. Someday down the road, they'll be ready for it. Let's talk about, now you sold the business last year?
Yes.
Okay. When did you start thinking about exiting out of the business? Because I think this is a really important part of being a business owner. And we were just talking about this before we started recording. As a business owner, you're likely thinking about growing business, getting clients, having people sign up for whatever service or product that you're selling. You're not necessarily thinking about a way out.
Right.
So what kind of sparked the idea that you were ready to move on, and how did that all kind of come about?
I'll be honest with you. A couple of things really affected us as a business. And we were very lucky that we were able to stay in business. So many businesses went out of business, but I was very budget conscious. I was always very conservative with our money. But COVID, we got shut down in 2020 in March. Even though we were an outdoor business, we did everything possible to try to still go. We had the little plastic in between every single person on the bike, even outside, just because there were no rules for us. We were kind of like the redheaded stepchild. We wanted to be in some form of compliance in case there was a question, but nobody ever said, hey, quadricycles have to do this, this, and this. We just followed along the restaurant bar kind of. We're like, well, that's kind of the closest of what we are. So let's just do the partitions. So COVID was a really hard time for us to run. We did the best we could, but after COVID, there was riots in Louisville. Obviously, you heard the Minnesota riots, but Breonna Taylor, that was a challenge in our city for many months, and there was a lot of riots. A lot of people were upset, and dealing with COVID and then dealing with that, we had to protect our customers to the best of our ability. We would have bachelorettes call us. They would say, hey, we want to go out. And I'm like, are you crazy? There's a riot going on right now. We had to turn away business. There were riots for many, many months. And we were just terrified what to do because we wanted to run.
Yeah.
But we couldn't because we didn't want to put our customers in any form of danger. So that was one of the things that it was tough. That was a really, really tough period for us. And it just kind of made us go, okay, we've done this long enough. We really started it out for kind of a fun side business. I was very blessed to have it. It helped pay for my kids' schooling. It helped with some fun things. And the girls were older now. We had been doing it for 13 years. It was just, I was at a season in my life where I just wanted my weekends. I needed a little bit of my weekends back.
Even though, because at this time you had several employees and a manager. And also you were running how many bikes at the height of your business?
At the height of the business, we had 2 cities, 2 managers, 2 to 3 managers, and like 20 employees.
And you had 5 bikes between the 2 cities?
Yes.
Okay. So you're managing multiple locations, you're managing multiple managers, multiple employees. Yes. So even though you're not necessarily doing the tours on site, you're still having to, again, micromanage. You're still managing the overall part of the business, and that would involve taking you away on weekends and evenings.
Correct. I never wanted to go out of town just because if there wasn't some kind of incident, anything, my managers were great, but they were part-time. They weren't like a full-time salaried job. We only ran Friday and Saturday nights. I couldn't really justify hiring someone and paying them a salary. You had to find the right person. And that's another thing. You have to find the right manager to be able to handle this type of thing because there's a lot of dead time. The manager is sitting in a garage. There's 2 hours where they're doing nothing. And really they're only working in between tours, shifting people in and off. They're answering, texts or phone calls or whatever. So to find the right people, that was for us the biggest challenge. And I always backed up my managers if they had an issue because the bikes, it's such a unique business. It's not like there's nobody else that they could even ask because we were so unique.
Yeah.
There's not even a mechanic. A mechanic doesn't even know how to fix these bikes because they're so unique. So we did have to kind of stay a little bit on guard, even though we did delegate just for emergency reasons.
Yeah, I can remember visiting you guys and you getting a call and Scotty had to go fix something.
Yeah.
And one of the I don't know what you refer to them as, but like whatever helps move the bike, because whoever the manager was didn't know how to fix it. So I can understand why you would be reluctant to go too far when you're running tours. And you're in Kentucky too, so you have a little bit better of weather for a longer period of time throughout the year. While you had some slow months, you were running tours probably a good majority of the months out of the year.
Basically March through Thanksgiving through November. And we, if the weather was nice in February or something like that, we would run tours. But one thing I think Scott was very proud of, fix it. He had a particular way. Maybe he's a micromanager. I don't know. He doesn't like to be called that. But he had a particular way because his background was he started out as a mechanic for the Air National Guard. So he has a huge mechanical background. He's wonderful.
MacGyver.
Yes, he can fix it. Honestly, he can fix anything. But he had a particular way he wanted the bikes to run. He trained them, but Scott really liked to oversee all of the mechanics. Looking back, if he would have maybe trained and let them go a little bit, but he always wanted to kind of make sure that the bikes were running the way he wanted them to run. So maybe he's a micromanager.
Maybe we'll find a different name for it for
He
him.
won't like that.
He won't like that.
He won't like that.
That's okay. He won't.
Don't edit that out.
All right. So you have gone through COVID. You have some really controversial things happening in downtown Louisville that are affecting the safety of your employees and patrons, people that are coming to pedal on the bike. And so this is when you really start to think about selling the business and you're getting serious about it. What does that process look like? What do you have to have in place in order to list your business for sale?
Okay. So, like I said, Scott and I are DIYers to the core, and we have to let up a little bit. But there are business brokers out there that will sell your business. And they are helpful in the sense where they can help value your business. They can look at, they can connect you. It's like a realtor, honestly, for businesses. However, their commission, they take kind of a chunk. And then Scott and I always were like, we built this. We don't want anybody else. This is ours. We met with a broker and we're like, okay, what exactly do you do? And we figured out we could do exactly what the broker did. And we found the website that the broker went on, and anybody can do it. It's Biz by Sell, Biz, B-I-Z, by, B-Y, B-U-Y, sell.com. Brokers use it, and so do normal people. So does business owners. And so, of course, we go, we can do this too. And that's what we did.
When you're listing your business for sale, what does that look like? What do you have to include for people? What do you need to know about your business in order to list it? Okay. Know your numbers.
Know your numbers. Always know your numbers. And if you don't know your numbers, have a good accountant. And we had a good accountant. I didn't do everything myself. You need a good accountant. You need a lawyer to set up structurally a little bit of your business. But yeah, your numbers and be able to. QuickBooks, it's really not as hard as it's really not that bad. Run basic reports, your profit and loss statement, your statement of cash flows, all of those things. I mean, it's so easy to pull those things up. And that's really what potential business people are looking for is how much money are you making? That's bottom line.
Yeah.
And you always want to sign an NDA before you give any information out like that. And you can get that through a lawyer, or you can go through like some kind of like legal website or something, but you always want to get an NDA first and foremost.
Before you're handing out really
You
sensitive
don't,
financials. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
You don't say anything on the phone. You don't do anything until you get your NDA. And then once you get your NDA, then you can share all that information with them. And it protects you and protects them to some degree.
It's important to have your financials in order throughout the entire life of your business, especially, when you're coming to a point where you're ready to sell, because that's where you make your money. People need to see that the business is profitable and healthy in a financial way in order for it to have value.
100%. And if if you want to exit, let's say in a year or two, you need to start now. If you're going to sell your business, you want it as lean as possible. Get rid of all the, expenses that you don't really need. Just get rid of the subscriptions, all of that stuff that you're not using. Clean up your numbers. That is the biggest thing. Make it as, transparent, as organized. Get your categories in order, or get your accountant to make sure, tell your accountant, that's what you want to do, and they'll help you. And that's what I did.
So that's perfect. Now, the business from the point you listed it until the point you sold it, that was a lengthy time period.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It is not, yes, this is a difficult business, but it's a unique business. It's hard to find somebody sometimes who wants to take on this. It's kind of an animal. After COVID, everybody was struggling.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a bad time to sell a business, because then you're showing them numbers from COVID. But a lot of people did understand. They're like, we totally get it. And it took a while for you to even come back. But yeah, it does take some time. I promoted on one little website. You don't really want to publicly say, hey, I'm selling my business on your social media.
Sure.
You kind of want to keep it as private as possible so you don't upset your customers and your employees. So it was kind of difficult. You have a balance where you're like, okay, I want to promote this, but I don't want everybody in the world to find out. But yeah, it did take us some time. And we found some wonderful people that bought it, and they love it. And they're doing tours right now. So they're doing great. I talked to them a little bit.
Oh, fun.
And, yeah, we're friendly. And he said, the sun's out. We have a couple tours today and tomorrow. So they're doing fabulous.
Awesome.
So excited for them. After the sale, we contractually said, okay, we're going to basically hold your hand for a month, or train you for a month and a half or something like that. So you will need that one after you sell your business. You can't you can, but most people do want some form of training for a couple weeks at least.
That makes sense. And especially since this is something that you built, you put so many years into, blood, sweat, and tears into. And I couldn't imagine I personally couldn't imagine just handing it off without having any kind of transitional type of meeting or training or information that I would want to pass on to a new owner.
It is, and it's emotional, and you just have to understand that's like a baby you're giving to someone. We were fortunate to have really nice, kind people that were very respectful of us and just complimentary, like saying how wonderful of a job we've done. I created an entire Google Drive, downloaded my brain basically from the last, but there's a lot legally, permits and things like that we had to get, that I wanted to make sure that there, again, organization. I didn't want a million phone calls come, they were going to call me because there's so much to it. It was probably 90 pages of all the things, and it was probably too much. But so they could just go, oh, okay, this is how I get my local permit. This is how I do this. This is how I do that. And I gave that to them at the sale. It really, hopefully it's helped them.
Was it kind of like standard operating procedures along those lines? Yeah.
It was just everything. How we train our employees. Our company rules, the local law, the state law, all the really permitting is huge. The route plan, how the bikes, anything on mechanical on the bike, we tried to include as well. So.
Wow. That also adds so much value to the business, I would think, having all of that information and that wealth of knowledge wrapped up in a pretty little bow. That's definitely got value.
Yeah, I wish I would have had that starting. That would have helped. Part of you is like, When you're sad about the business, you're kind of like, well, I'm giving this like in a bow. I had to figure all this out on my own. That's something that we're super proud of. And they hopefully got a good start.
Yeah, it sounds like it. All right. Well, I want to ask you a couple of other questions, and I'm going to throw this one out there because I think it's fun and I want to talk to you about it. What about this is so off the subject of business. What is your favorite fun personal story of us doing something together?
You know, you know.
I know. So, but that's your favorite because I think I have another one too.
So we were at the lake and we had boats next to each other.
This is like back in the 80s. So let's reference a time frame. This wasn't last weekend.
It was last weekend.
It's last weekend.
That just sticks out. There's so fun. Well, Cabbage Patch Dolls.
I do love that story. Just to kind of give people a little bit more insight, can you share what happened? Like,
there's really not much. Well, I think that's just the first thing that popped in my head. As I'm prefacing, there was no internet. We had nothing to do, and so we would just sneak out. Like this was our like rebel. Like we would sneak down to the bathroom because they were like it was like a trailer kind of with all the bathrooms. So we would go and we would throw toilet paper.
The rolls, right?
The rolls, and we just laughed. That was like our weekend. We were like Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was hysterical. I think back kids wouldn't get that in any way, shape, or form today.
No.
I have to say, one of my more recent favorite memories is so my husband and I will go down sometimes and visit you and Scott for Derby.
I need to talk to you about this.
Okay.
Because we'll talk about that. But
okay, we'll talk about that. But I don't know, it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, and you guys had this great idea to rent an RV trailer.
Oh my gosh!
So
us and trailers.
So like I think that's just part of our story forever. The trailer was a great idea in the concept, but I don't know if we did.
It was an RV.
I'm sorry,
trailer,
but it had like a hitch, so it had to hitch up to something. So it was nice. It was really nice. No, it was nice. It was just
minus Jimmy to be on the bunk.
There were bunk beds in the back.
Jimmy the top.
Jimmy, I don't even remember. Somebody
top.
So somebody took the top, and then we had ants that got in it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was freezing cold.
It was cold, and then it wasn't anchored down the right way. So anytime you made a step or a movement, like the whole thing would shake.
Well, the propane tank was out, and that was supposed to heat us, and so we were freezing our butts off. It was miserable. It was miserable. Worst. We just were like, we went from we're the coolest people ever. Just to preface, Derby, we wanted to stay close to Derby because then we could imbibe, have a nice time, have a few drinks, and walk back. We were trying to be
responsible. Yeah.
We can have, we can hang out. We can, you have all these things. We'll cook hot dogs or whatever. And there was a parking lot that people did that. And so we rented this RV, the whole thing. We thought we were doing a good thing. And it was the most miserable night.
And it's funny because we had it for the 2 nights and we were like, not happening on the second.
Well, you're not telling the story about the donuts correctly.
Okay, go for it.
Did you guys get the donuts or did we?
I don't remember, but there were donuts involved.
So we're freezing and we're trying to make the best of the morning. And so we're like, oh, we got donuts for you guys. And open it up. And everybody eats some. And then Jimmy or Scott is like, what is that thing moving? The sprinkles moving. And we're like, what? And we look down and it's ants. We'd already eaten, all of us have eaten like 2 donuts. And it's like, let's get the hell out of here. It's the worst. It's the worst night.
Oh my God.
You were like the best. Like you were like, we're coming back next year. I was like, what?
We can't wait for the next thing.
We were mortified.
We love making memories with you guys.
I'm sorry.
No, it was truly such a great idea. And it was so great of you guys to even think of that and to do that. And that's why we came back. We just love you guys. It was fun. So, all right, well, now that we've got our fun personal stories recorded. Let's talk a second about, let's see. Finley is home. Yeah.
That's my pillow.
Yep. I love it. I love it. All right. So I wanted to check in with you about your favorite space to have organized in your home, or if you had to wave a magic wand, what's the one space you'd want to have organized?
I can't say this because I would get divorced because we, so I can't say
It's the
where I
it's the
no,
garage.
it's spilling out to our yard. But that's not my,
That's not your domain.
I just like I dream of a day where I can rent a dumpster. I talk about it all the time. I'm like, oh, if I could just get a little mini dumpster for just 2 days, it would really honestly change my life. And everybody in my family is like, you're crazy. But I'm like, I don't like things. Like I like things, but then I want to throw them out, get rid of them when we don't use something for more than like, I get tools and things
Yeah.
like that. There's some things we tend to hold on to, we don't need to. My office, actually, it's so funny because I just redid our office, my office. This is where I do all my work, but it was totally unorganized, not painted. This wall wasn't up. I got all new furniture, all new
It's
everything.
beautiful. It's
Thank you.
if people aren't watching this on YouTube or seeing, what we're talking about, it is absolutely gorgeous. In fact, that's the color of my living room, that blue.
Oh, you need to have an organized space. And this is my organized space. I think it just declutters your mind, even if it's
Yeah,
just a little tiny corner in your home. About a year ago, maybe I just was like, I'm painting, I'm redoing, I'm redecorating. And it doesn't have to cost a fortune. You don't have to spend a lot of money, just a can of paint. And you can find stuff on Facebook Marketplace, but you just want a little place for yourself that you feel good. And that's kind of what I did.
absolutely. That's the way I feel about my office. I need my space. I need it to look good. Okay, let's talk about one thing you wish you would have known starting out in the business.
One thing I wish I would have known, I wish I would have, I guess, understood social media and the impact of social media sooner. I really do feel like I tried to take that on myself. And I think that hiring someone and just biting the bullet and taking that off of your plate, you need to take things off your plate. And understanding that, I think that's probably one thing that I wish I would have done. I, and I did do it a little bit, but I wish I would have done more of it sooner. So I guess because I'm 47 and I am on social media now, but kids really are like TikTok
Oh,
and all that stuff. Like that is such a stream of income.
I there was something I couldn't figure out for the podcast, and I gave it to my 15-year-old nephew, and he had it done in 2 minutes. I'm like, good God, this was like weighing on me for 2 weeks.
Yes, yes, that is me. I think that the social media, I think that would have really, really helped me a little bit more. I mean, I did do a lot of social media, but paying someone who that is what they do every single day was something I wish I would have done more of. I think, to reach people. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't know we even exist. So
sure.
we need social media.
100%. All right. What about now that the business has sold? What's something you're working on now? Obviously, you have a ton of ideas for businesses.
Oh my gosh, I have a ton of ideas. If there's an entrepreneur, a little angel investor listening, give me a call. We could I do. Oh, I have one idea, but I can't say it. It's
Keep it to yourself.
oh my God. It's the dumbest idea, but it would be sell like hotcakes.
You can tell
Well,
me later.
actually, I will. But actually, I haven't told a lot of people, but I now work for a medical supply company.
Yes.
I'm a 1099 employee. So I started my own LLC. I I'm basically an independent contractor. It's a wound care company, and we are selling amniotic membrane skin grafts. Totally out of my field, but I'm just going into nursing homes and skilled care facilities. For me, I don't want to just sit home and I do want to help people. It's totally out of my comfort zone. I'm completely like new, but I just keep thinking if I can help an elderly or somebody. I
Yeah.
saw this on Indeed. I scrolled through Indeed because I don't want to sit at home and just be on social media all day.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't necessarily want to go back full time. Once you kind of own your own business, it's kind of hard. I could, but I just kind of want to do something, but I also kind of want to still be my own boss. So this is what I found. And it was such a win for me because I'm like, man, I really can help people. And I can, like today's Friday. Normally I'd be out, but I'm like, no, I'm going to do this podcast. And so you can kind of make your own schedule.
I couldn't imagine walking back into a full-time job at this point in my life after being away from it for the last 5 years. You were away from it for a very long time. That flexibility of being your own boss is just something I have so much gratitude for. And I didn't even realize how much I would cherish that and how important it is to me.
I will say this though, however, when you do own your own business, it is 24. I mean, you are,
Yeah.
even though you're not working, you
Yeah.
have all the weight of the world on your shoulders. You are the last line of defense. It's not just fun and games, but,
Sure.
everyone's like, oh, you own this fun business. It's like, well, not really. Yes, it is fun, but it's still a business. So I found this when I can build my own team. So if anybody wants to join on,
Well, there you
call
go.
me. Seriously, I can build my own and anywhere in the country, and you can make great money if you sell the products and you work when you want to work, and so it's such an exciting time. And I think that I'm going to try it and see.
Yeah.
I'm just one of those people. I'm like, well, we only live once.
Yeah. YOLO.
YOLO. So, but I will say I'm totally out of my totally out of my comfort
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah, but you
That's
know what? That's where you grow. When you're out of
true.
your comfort zone. You don't grow unless you step outside of your comfort zone.
I'm totally out of my comfort zone. And
Yeah.
the biggest thing is I just don't want to look stupid because I don't know all of the product lines yet. And you don't want to look like an idiot when you have a doctor calling you, asking you about something and you don't have a clue.
Yeah.
But you have to just have faith in yourself. You're going to get through it. And it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm going to get that answer for you. I will get that as soon as I can. That's a great question, And I mean,
I do that in my business sometimes. When people ask me organizing questions, I'm like, let me circle back.
circling. A lot of circling.
A lot of circling.
Circling. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm up to right now. And it's an exciting time. There's exciting things going on in this company.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. So
Well, I love that you found something that you are excited for and that you're trying something different. So, what about a goal for your future? Do you have anything on tap? Obviously, you have this idea that you don't know want to verbalize out loud to the entire world, but
yeah. Well, actually, this new business, this new endeavor is kind of what has kind of just consumed me. Besides, my family comes first, always my family. But, trying to figure this out is a new challenge. I just want to sell some products and help some people.
while we covered so much in the interview today, is there anything that we missed that you didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, I will say this. I was given this book and even if you don't like, reading big, leadership books or things like that, this was good. Just circling back to the beginning, like knowing who you are as a person. Like I said, I'm a microman. I need to find a better word.
You're detail oriented.
Yeah. But being okay with who you are, all your flaws and everything like that. It's okay. Like, you don't have to be perfect. If you're a micromanager, that's fine. If you're not, that's fine too. But there was a book. It was called Discover Your Clifton Strengths and Its 34 Personality Traits. It's a book. Have you read it?
Yeah, I have my 5.
Okay, good. Oh, okay, good.
What are your 5? What are your 5?
Well,
You remember?
communication was my number one. Yeah.
My
So,
number one's responsibility.
shock. It is good because it's not a hard thing to get through. Really, it's just
No.
quiz in the beginning.
Yep.
And it just tells you your personality trait. Like it's nice because if I'm a micromanager or if I'm a communication or like adaptability, then it shows you, okay, well, this is how you put it into your life or your work to maximize your
Strengths. Yeah, your
Yeah.
strengths with your business. I took it when I worked in my last career. It was something that was required. So not only did I take it, but because Jimmy, my husband, worked at the same company, he took it too. So it was kind of nice to have that to compare between the two of us to look and see what his strengths are versus my strengths. I do think it's a very useful tool, and I'll link it in the show notes so people can find it.
Perfect.
Yes. But yeah, that's a great recommendation. I think, yeah, everybody should know a little bit more about themselves. So yeah, take the quiz.
Yeah, absolutely. You just try to be positive, and if you fail, it's okay. Like just keep going. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but I mean that's just kind of trust me. I failed and failed and failed, and just keep going. till they can't turn you away anymore.
I think that is a great attitude to have. And I think, you know what? That's a great place to leave it. So we'll leave it there. That's all we have for today's episode of Organizing the Entrepreneur. But remember, this journey, it doesn't stop here. We've got a ton of awesome content coming your way. Until next time, keep hustling, keep shining, and keep organizing. Thanks for listening to Organizing the Entrepreneur. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling inspired by your own organizational journey, share it with us. Tag us on social media using #AMeaningfulSpace, and let's build this community of empowered women together.